The physics school at Sydney University has been involved in research since 1886. The formation of the Science Foundation for Physics in 1954 made funds available for large-scale experimental projects, anything from environmental research to astronomy. As well as tackling some of the practical problems of the world energy crisis, the school is probing deeper into the laws of physics through pure research. Let's take a look at some of these projects. The sun's an inexhaustible supply of energy. The technology for collecting and storing thermal energy at temperatures up to 100 degrees Celsius is fairly well understood. The solar energy group's looking at ways to collect energy at much higher temperatures. This could have direct application in industry and in the home. Inside each vacuum tube is a black coated tube which is absorbing solar energy efficiently and passing it on to the water which flows through the inner tubes. Keeping a high vacuum between the inner and outer tubes guards against heat loss. This sealed tube contains peanut oil which could go straight into a cooker. The type of black coating on the tube determines the temperature reached. After heating for a few hours, the oil reaches temperatures like this. It took 2 years to develop this coating and the way of putting it on the tube by a process called sputtering. This prototype machine shows the reaction which takes place in the large machine. After a glass tube is inserted, the machine sputters or ionizes particles which form stable layers on the tube. The first layer is copper. The second layer is iron carbide. It takes about 30 minutes to complete this process, but commercially it could be done in about 1 minute. The two-layer coating is stable even at very high temperatures, so these tubes have a long life. The sun's a vast natural example of a plasma, matter which is appreciably ionized. The plasma department is part of the worldwide effort to harness fusion reactions like those occurring in the sun.
Ready?
They've developed a series of machines to create short-lived plasmas. The experiment takes a long time to set up, but the reaction itself is all over in a flash.
3, 2, 1, fire.
A very large current from a capacitor bank is passed through the gas, creating a shock wave. This ionizes the gas as it goes. The plasma lasts for only 5 milliseconds or so. This equipment monitors the plasma and stores information that can be looked at later. The fast camera gives us pictures which are a time history of the shape of the plasma. This laser uses carbon dioxide to produce an intense beam of coherent light. The beam is passed through a plasma so that the number of electrons in the plasma can be measured. The light is far infrared, so you can't see it, but its energy shows on this heat-sensitive material. The latest plasma machine uses a much higher current, around 250,000 amps. The power here is comparable to that of the Sydney grid, but it's being used for only a few milliseconds.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Over the years, members of the theoretical department have made calculations in a wide variety of areas, including general relativity and the theory of nuclei. They can switch between fields because they don't have to build any complicated equipment.
Oh, I see.
Theoreticians also work closely with the experimental groups. Their calculations sometimes suggest new experiments, and they're often asked to interpret new results provided by the experimentalists.
I guess it'd be fairly easy to get Dennis to just run his end.
They often use large computers to check their theories with experiments. There's a direct line from this terminal to the central computer. Ultimately, both experimental and theoretical results are published in scientific journals around the world. One of the world's largest crocodile populations once existed in the Northern Territory. The Environmental Physics Department has done a lot of interesting work up there, the major emphasis being on radio tracking of crocodiles. The work is sometimes difficult, sometimes a little tricky, but never dull. Because of hunting in the past, crocodiles here are close to extinction. Radio tracking is being used to work out their habits and movements, and it's hoped to rebuild the population. The micro-miniature transmitters used are designed and built in the laboratory. An ultrasonic bonding machine joins tiny wires to these miniature conductor patterns. Solar cells and batteries are added to the completed circuit. It's now ready for attachment to a crocodile's head. In the field, crocodiles are caught in nets. The transmitters are attached with molds shaped around bony protrusions on the crocodiles' heads. This allows the crocodiles to be followed for several years. These remote tracking stations along the Liverpool River are used to locate the positions of crocodiles by triangulation. The receivers used are also made by the Environmental Physics Department. They can follow up to 50 crocodiles at a time. The equipment has provided a great deal of useful information on crocodiles and could be used on other large species as well. Cosmic ray particles enter the atmosphere at just below the speed of light. This is what happens. The high-energy particle collides with oxygen or nitrogen nuclei in the air, creating large numbers of secondary particles. These all travel at approximately the same speed, making up a shower front. With their particle telescope, the Cosmic Ray Department is looking for any exotic particles created in the shower. Information about showers of particles appears on this screen. The camera records selected shower events which can be studied later. Inside the telescope, particles pass through scintillators and Geiger counters, which measure the trajectories, velocities, and charges. Using the information from the screen, properties of many hundreds of events can be studied in great detail. Some showers from high-energy primary particles spread as wide as 3 kilometers on the ground. A particle telescope that size is out of the question, so the Cosmic Ray Department built a different type of instrument near Narrabri. Dozens of stations covering 50 square kilometers are spaced around Pilliga Forest. It's the largest array of its kind in the world. Each station picks up a timing code from the central transmitter and has a tape recorder to collect the shower information. Propane gas is used to drive a thermoelectric generator, which is a reliable source of power. The technicians here are checking to see if everything is working correctly. The data will be looked at when they get back to the central transmitter. Any fault in the circuitry can be traced through the equipment in the Land Rover. In most cases, a minor fault in a circuit can be fixed by renewing the whole board. There are two large scintillator tanks at each station, about 50 meters apart. From time to time, the scintillator tanks need to be cleaned and filled with fresh fluid. The scintillator fluid is vital since it can convert the energy of the shower particles into flashes of light. The flashes from the shower particles are picked up by this photomultiplier tube and recorded. A shower front reaches and triggers neighbouring stations at different times, and this can be used to calculate the angle of flight. All the stations around the forest are synchronised by a code from this central transmitter. The code displayed here on the screen gives an extremely accurate time reference, and it's sent out by the central transmitter so that all the stations are synchronized. The timing code is generated by this central clock. It's accurate to 50 nanoseconds, which is quite adequate for the purpose. Ultimately, all the information collected will be put together to pinpoint the cosmic source of these extremely high-energy particles and expand our knowledge of the universe. Stars appear so small that it's impossible to measure their size, even with the largest telescopes. A special instrument is needed, an interferometer. The Astronomy department has led the world with its unique stellar intensity interferometer. It's capable of measuring the angular extent of the head of a pin 1,000 kilometers away. The instrument was used until 1972 to measure the angle subtended by more than 30 bright, hot stars. This was done by comparing the starlight received by the two reflectors which moved on a 200-meter track. The measurements were combined with other data to find the sizes and surface temperatures of the stars. The department's now developing a more sensitive instrument. In this design, two light beams from a star will be brought together by a train of high-quality optical components. The reflectors here are only 10 centimeters in diameter. It's Michelson's original interferometer concept with modern technology. The accurate alignment of the optical components is vital, and a laser is being used to achieve this. The instrument could give important fundamental measurements of faint stars, hot and cold, from dwarfs to supergiants. In this valley east of Canberra, the Astrophysics department operates the Mills Cross radio telescope. It was designed and built by them and opened in 1965. Each of its arms is 1 mile long. The wire mesh parabolic reflectors concentrate cosmic radio signals onto the thousands of dipole aerials. This arm is aligned north-south. The complete shaft and gear mechanism is remotely controlled, but it needs occasional inspections to keep it all in good working order. The signals from each section of the telescope are amplified and then carried through bundles of coaxial cables to the center of the cross. Here they are combined and finally displayed in the main control room as radio pictures of the sky. The east-west arm is tilted by two 20-horsepower motors, which rotate the entire mile-long structure. This sequence has been taken by a time-lapse technique and shows the arm moving at about 20 times its natural speed. When both arms are pointing to the chosen part of the sky, the recorder and computer tapes are started and the observations are underway. As the Earth rotates, the beams are swept steadily across the sky. An image of the radio emission is built up like a television picture, but 11 scans at a time. Planets, galaxies, pulsars and quasars, hydrogen clouds, the Sun. This powerful telescope has contributed in many ways to modern astronomy.